All right. Welcome, everybody, to another weekly episode of the Late Reject Show. I am here with my co host, Lindsay, and my other co host, um, Brain Fart,
You don't know his
Cody. I'm just
name?
playing. I'm just playing. I
I
like to
was
see.
gonna be really
I
sad
saw,
for him.
I saw Cody's face slowly start to melt, and I was like, "No, I can't do that. I can't do
You monster.
that." Cody,
Hello.
how are you tonight, sir?
Oh, I am here. I am alive and ready to talk two incredibly well made films.
All right, yeah. So are we. This week we chose. If you missed my little bobblehead announcement, we chose The Sixth Sense, the classic M Night Shyamalan um, movie. Spoiler: if you have not seen it,
You've
it's
had
been out long
plenty of
enough.
time.
I honestly, if you haven't seen this one, I'd just be straight up disappointed in you. Like
Honestly, you
in
probably already know the spoiler if for some point in 22 years. Let that settle in for a little
I was
while
gonna say,
before.
how long
yeah,
ago?
man, because I remember seeing that in the theater like it was
Oh,
yesterday.
that
That's
It,
doesn't
crazy.
it doesn't hurt my feelings to hear big numbers like that at all.
and then, yeah, you probably already know it. But if
Oh,
you
what's
haven't
that?
seen it,
My hair just got a little grayer when you said that. I saw it actually happen in real time. Like my wings,
Like in the
when you
movies.
said 22 years, my wings just got a little grayer, just
Like frost
like
setting.
frost.
yeah, it's been
But
22 years. But yeah, we are going to
and
talk
you know
the
that
big plot twist.
and that you know what? After we watched it, that because I hadn't seen it in a while, and that's one that I used to own on VHS, and then again when it came out on DVD, I bought it on DVD because it's a really well made movie, and even after having not seen it for a long time and knowing the twist and everything, it still holds up. It's still a really probably. Now I know that you like Unbreakable. I mean, and so do I, but man, this was just such a well done horror movie. Uh, but we'll get into that. And the other movie is Us, which was a first for Lindsay and I watching it. And again, that was a really well done movie. And I will go ahead and mention that they both. It's funny that because you chose Us and I chose The Sixth Sense, not knowing that there was a plot twist ending in Us that was really cool. So both of these movies ended up having a surprise ending, kind of a twist ending. Um, so yeah, which one would you like to get into first, Cody? We want to go with the
Ooh,
22-year-old movie or the 2 3 year old movie.
yeah, let's go with the Sixth Sense. Let's talk that one first, and then we'll talk about Us because when we talk about Us, there's going to be some referencing of both the Sixth Sense and M Night Shyamalan. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk Sixth Sense.
Okay. Well, let's see. Hang on, let me go way back in the Wayback Machine in my head because again, this movie was released. This came out on VHS, so you again let 22 the words 22 years sink in. It's been that long, and this is back when when Bruce Willis had a head of hair and Haley Joel Osment was not
Was a
a bigger
wee
dude with a
baby.
beard. So,
No, Bruce Willis is very much wearing a hairpiece in this movie. He was already bald.
oh, okay, I didn't
Well,
realize
good on
that.
the
Yeah,
hairpiece people. That's
I just
that's seamless their work.
yeah, I just figured that he had gone bald on top and just decided just to go completely bald, but I had no idea about the
No,
hairpiece.
I'm pretty sure he's been bald since Pulp Fiction.
Wow, okay. So early
If
on,
not
man.
sooner, because if you notice in Die Hard with a Vengeance, he's got like a well, he has a very receding hairline in Die Hard
Mhm.
with a Vengeance, if you remember. So
Yeah, I remember that. We watched it not too long ago. But yeah,
yeah,
okay.
that's a
Okay.
hairpiece.
All right, Bruno. Man, the way to trick everybody. And if you don't know who Bruno is, please go look at Bruno. It's pretty amusing. It's his one hit wonder music career, which, to be fair, out of all of the actors and actresses who have come throughout the years and have decided to grace us with a short-lived musical career, he was actually decent. Um, he was decent. He played a lot of bluesy older stuff, and he could play the harmonica. He's a showman, but his acting was definitely better. But anyway, that's a whole nother story for another time. If you're interested, Bruno, The Return of Bruno, check it out. But yeah, so I remember going with my friends to see this movie. Keith Frame and um, who else was there? Keith Frame and Sam Scallon. I went with because we were always going to watch movies, and we went and watched it in Jacksonville, and I'm telling you, that movie scared the living daylight. This is back when I was still really like horrified of scary movies, and I didn't really watch all that many of them like I do now. Like I'm more desensitized to all that stuff now, and I'm branching out and getting more and more into the horror genre. But yeah, this even watching it though, like even though I wasn't just a huge fan of horror movies, and it scared me to death. That is until The Ring came out, because that The Ring one upped it for me, and actually gave me the sweaty armpits, and like where I gripped my seat. But it stuck with me. It wasn't just a horror film. It was a really well done story. And I think that's what surprised me was it wasn't a bunch of jump scares or gory stuff. It was um, really subtle things that happened throughout this movie that made it terrifying, and it worked really well.
So I got a question. You said you saw it in the theaters. Do you remember, like, was it brand new or did you see it after it'd been out a while? Because this kind of had a word of mouth success because people were like, oh, you got to go see this Bruce Willis movie where the little kid sees dead people.
This was probably maybe the second weekend that it was out. I mean, this was going to a late show. This is back when Jacksonville Theater would let anyone and everyone hang out up there. It was like a huge, like people would go and drop their kids off
People
to just go and hang
still
out.
do that.
Like, well, no, this is before the 90s, because when I started working there,
before the curfew, but people are still dumping their kids off in places like movie
The-
theaters
the-
and just driving off for a couple hours.
the second year I started working there, they implemented the 9 p.m. curfew. So if you went to a 9 o'clock movie and you were under the age of 18, you had to have an adult with you. Or was it 16? It was 16 or 16, 17 or 18, because they were having so many fights. I was basically a bouncer when I started, like, hauling people out left and right, kids making out in the seats, people throwing popcorns. I mean, it really was like a Wild West movie theater. This is,
it was a saloon movie theater.
They were doing everything they could. Like, I remember the boss that hired me, Tony. His name was Tony. He was a Puerto Rican dude with a lazy eye and real stocky. He said, "Chris, I am only hiring you. You're basically
stand here and look
muscle. Yeah, you're gonna take tickets, and then you're gonna walk up and down the aisle, and you're gonna kick people out and break up fights. Because when the late show starts, kids will go into a movie and then they'll come out like 5 or 10 minutes later. They'll come out. They'll be playing the arcades or hanging around outside. They're talking. They're sneaking off with their boyfriends and whatnot. So it really was like this lawless time for the Jacksonville movie theater. I know I just went off on this long tangent, but yes, it was. It probably was the second week there because I remember the theater was crowded. People were screaming and, you know, tossing popcorn and
Screaming at scary parts of the movie, or just screaming?
in general, the scary parts of the movie, people talking on their phones and
Was there a
on
good
their
gap?
phones in 1999.
well, okay, I will say talking on their phones.
Were they all checking their beepers? and
Probably
running
checking
outside to
beepers.
use
I
the
just remember
payphones?
it being very rowdy, like, but you were used to it then. Like this is the late show, kids are everywhere. You were used to it. The only thing you could do is either turn around and tell them to be quiet or, hey, signal the usher and have him come down and kick him out or tell him to be quiet. But yeah.
Well,
But I remember seeing it, and it was we all three enjoyed it very much. I mean, it was one of those that, again, I bought on VHS when it came out.
well, the reason I asked, did you know this was the second highest grossing movie of 1999? It was the second highest made film of that year.
Wow, I knew it was a huge hit, like a big runaway hit, and it earned all this money. I remember seeing like TV spots left and right, and all I saw was I see dead people, and the Sixth Sense, the highest grossing movie in America,
It's because of
don't
the
miss
twist.
it.
It's
Go to the
because of
theater,
twist.
yeah. Don't spoil it,
Yeah, it made the most money out of any movie in America besides The Phantom Menace that year.
I knew the Phantom was going to be number one in '99, but
It's all those haters going into theaters to be mad
Yeah.
about it.
So this had to come out after, because May. Let's see, episode 1.
Yeah,
came out
this
in
was a
May.
late summer release. This was August. And I think I remember being dropped off to go see this for like the 4:00 show in Palestine, either like right before school started or right when it did start. And I saw ads for it not only on TV, but in the paper, like in the newspaper, like about how popular
Yeah.
this movie was.
Yeah, I remember newspaper ads for movies.
And what made me like this movie so much is that it just sucks you in. So of course, after you see the movie, you want to watch it again or show it to someone because you want to see if you can catch all the stuff the signs in from the twist, right?
Mhm.
Not to. And
You want me to get it?
it's obvious once you watch it again, but you're so enwrapped in the story that you don't think about it when you're
Right.
watching it for the first time.
Yeah, you don't. You will totally miss it. And after like rewatching it now, of course, I know the ending. So when I rewatched it, it was just trying to watch all of the little things that you would have missed beforehand. And even after watching it several other times, like there were things in there after all these years that I hadn't noticed before, because I was really trying to pay attention this time around. But all the uses of red,
Yeah,
all of the little.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I love how M. Night Shyamalan uses color, and he still does that today. Like he will pick a color, and that is the theme of his movie. And yeah, you always see red whenever there's gonna be like a ghost pop up. But the other thing I love about this is we don't see the ghosts or really know what's going on. Of course, they tell us in the trailers he sees dead people. But we don't really see that till after he confesses to Bruce Willis after that incident at the birthday party and they're in the hospital. Then we get to see the ghosts.
Right. And that's a good buildup, because you don't know, is the boy telling the truth? Is it something psychological? Like what's going
You're
on?
more worried that he's being abused or something bad's happening to him, and the focus is on him, so you're not paying as close attention or making that connection between the ghosts that he's seeing and Bruce Willis's character and his presence.
And I wonder, I wish they probably wouldn't have put that in the marketing. Like they should have just marketed it as like just a weird thriller or spooky thriller with Bruce Willis.
Right.
And then that would have been like another, oh my goodness, that's what's going on as this kid sees dead people.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like to this day, that's probably like M. Night Shyamalan's this movie and Unbreakable are probably his two best films, personally. Like,
I mean, most people would agree. Now there are people that don't like Unbreakable, so they would probably say Split is his other best movie.
That's another one we have to see still.
yeah, we still need to see Split and Glass.
Yeah.
Or
so-
Shattered. Is it Shattered or was it Glass?
It's
or
Glass. It's
Glass,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Thinking of
I always
Unbreakable.
forget the name.
The names
Unbreakable.
get all mixed together.
But yeah, that's man, it's so well done. Like, and again, the ghosts are not, it's nothing gory. Like you see blood and stuff, but
well, yeah, like you see the one kid's head blown up from the back of his head when he's like, "Let me show you where my dad keeps his gun."
that right
And you-
there was the scariest part in that entire movie for me. Like when I remember watching it,
He's the scariest ghost for you.
well, it was when it all started, when he went to the bathroom and he's standing there or maybe it's the lady that he thinks is mom. He goes to the bathroom and he's taking a leak, and then you see somebody like walk in front of the door, and she's wearing a robe, so you think maybe it's his mom. And he like walks to the kitchen, and she's at the counter, and he's like, "Mom?" And she turns around, she goes, "No, dinner is not ready." And she starts screaming at him, and he like gets scared and runs back to his tent.
So how does that scene play for you, Lindsay? I remember you talking about when we were watching the Halloweens, like it was messing you up if you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And this movie has a scene where he's like, "Okay, I can't hold it. I gotta go to the bathroom."
I'm totally
Hey.
not just a bundle of exposed nerve endings the whole month of October.
I've
Because
got.
I can't get any decent sleep.
Hey, I told you I went with my friends to see this, right? We went back to Sam Scallon's house, and they live out.
Your friends are just mean after scary movies in general, I think.
Well, no, this is nothing compared to what they did with The Ring, and we'll get into that if we ever cover that movie, because that screwed me up.
No, but I mean, like, since
They
you
both-
guys were
they-
little,
they-
that friend group has a history of
They both have a
Playing
special
on your
place for
nerves.
them, designated for what they did to me with The Ring. But I remember we went to his house, and I was upstairs. Like, their upstairs had a big game room, and it had like 2 bedrooms off to the side. And I was sleeping in the game room, and there was a bathroom up there. And I remember I was scared to death. Like, all I could just replaying those scenes in my movie, trying to go to sleep, And I was like, crap, I've got to go pee really bad. So
just
I got
pee
up.
yourself. You'll be warm.
Yeah,
you won't have to get up.
I got up
And
and
the ghost
I
can't
ran
get
to the
you.
bathroom, and I left the door open because my back was to the door, and I was sitting there peeing. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody move outside the door. And I'm sitting there shaking. I'm sweaty because I'm just so nervous. I'm terrified. And I walk to the edge of the door, and it's my friend's dad, completely just in his tidy whities, like, "Chris, you okay? I was just checking the thermostat."
You almost got
And I was
karate
like-
chopped, old man. You better be careful.
I was like, I nearly wet all over your wall. I nearly wet all over the wall, just like, and my leg and everywhere, just because you were walking around in your underwear checking the thermostat. Scared the ever living shit out
At
of me.
least he wasn't wearing a long flowy robe. I feel like that would have been way worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seeing your friend's dad in his underwear is not any better. So
I think if you've seen your own dad in his underwear, other dads shouldn't phase you. They're all out there, just running around in their underpants in their own homes.
Well, that's why I never phased him. He was like, well, he's seen his old man in his underwear.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
Well, he was like, it's my house and my thermostat.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
It's
that's what
it's
you
a
get for being
requirement.
up at that time of night. I'm gonna be in my underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Their visiting hours are over.
that's a
I do not
dad
have to wear
requirement. Like you
pants.
have to get up in the middle of the night and go check the thermostat in your underwear, or like
And lock all the doors and check the windows.
check the
and
doors, check on everybody. Just you gotta do it in your underwear though.
pee. Yeah, that's what scares off the predators.
Yeah,
It's a
Like,
threat display.
oh crap! It's a middle-aged man with a dad bod just wearing underwear. No.
Do you know what? I think
I
if
can see
any of
the-
the characters in that last Halloween movie had just been like hanging out in some Fruit of the Looms, then maybe they would have made it.
yeah,
That'd have been one less
Michael
body.
Myers would have been like, ugh.
yeah.
No
like oh
thanks.
god, oh.
Or he would have remembered that that's what he looks like in tidy whities,
Look,
and he would have.
I'm
fled
going
the
back.
scene.
I'm going back to the hospital myself. God.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll call them. Don't even. Just go back to your bedroom.
So this movie, I think, hands down, has to be one of the best child performances ever put on screen, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, that little kid deserved an Oscar. Like,
That little kid is why I can't watch. What's that other movie that he is in that I was like mad at you? You made me watch.
AI.
Yep, that's the
oh,
one.
I love AI.
Mm-mm. I don't care. I don't like this trend of like, well, we're gonna traumatize this small precious child with big tear-filled eyes. It happens in this movie and then it happens in AI. They're like, oh well, technically there's kind of a happy ending. I don't care because he still has to deal with all that trauma.
We got to the part to where she abandons him. She abandons him in the forest, and we were like, she's like, no, turn it off. I can't do it.
I try not to be that like
It was sad,
that
but
hard line. I'm pretty open-minded about like giving movies a chance, but I can't. Haley Joel Osment is too precious. He's like a little bird baby
I
with
like
no feathers.
he gets it in the end. He gets taken care of.
No, I
Still
think
kind of looks like a little bird baby, even though he's just
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
chubby because
He
he
is
didn't
precious.
get much taller.
No,
No, he didn't. We should protect him at all costs.
his beard grew into his body.
Yep.
Aww. But I think especially in Sixth Sense, there's kind of this weak tying up of loose ends. It's like, oh well, Bruce Willis gave him this advice to like face his fears, and now seeing dead people isn't a problem for him anymore, and he's not afraid. But the trauma of being locked in that closet and all the things he hears constantly that he was writing out, that's still all happening to him.
Yep. And that's the scariest part of the movie. Whatever ghost is locked in that little closet,
Yeah,
that's
no
the
thanks.
scariest ghost to me. And then that whole scene where he freaks out on the teacher, and of course I don't know
Yeah.
how that teacher didn't get fired or at least reprimanded for calling a
Right.
student a freak.
Teachers are still like, there's still stories coming out today where things like that are happening in classrooms, and people are like, "Why are they even allowed to teach?" It's like,
You're right, Cody, because it's not the jump scares. It's it's whatever that
psychological.
was locked in that closet with him. You don't see it. You hear it. He sounds Hispanic. He was probably a prisoner or
well, whose house are they in?
something.
What's the history of the house that little boy lives in?
yeah.
Exactly.
So there was probably some sort of torture going on, and then they throw him in there. That and when Bruce Willis is going back and listening to
The tape.
The other kids recording.
and he's
Now, did we mention tidy whities because we get to see Donnie Wahlberg in his tidy whities in this movie?
for the longest
I can't
time
believe that's Donnie Wahlberg.
I
I had
didn't-
to look it up. I didn't believe it when Christopher told me.
I didn't realize it was Donnie for the longest time either, but
Did you know, like, the most Googled question when I was looking at Sixth Sense cast was, who was Mark Wahlberg in The Sixth Sense? Poor Donnie.
Nope. Sadly, Donnie Wahlberg gives a better performance in this movie than
He gives
Mark
a very good
Wahlberg gives in The Happening when M. Night Shyamalan decided to cast him as a science teacher.
oh, The only
Mark
performance
Wahlberg.
the only performance I'll give Mark Wahlberg any credit for is Boogie Nights, because he did a pretty damn good, decent job in that movie. But
Well,
other
he's
than
good
that,
in The Departed, but he's basically playing himself in The
he's
Departed.
he's himself in every movie basically. But he's himself in
What's that movie? Is it No Pain, No Gain? That's a good
yeah,
one.
Pain
No
and
Pain,
Gain.
Pain and
Pain and Gain.
Gain.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yeah. He's goofy.
Yeah,
Like he
he's
takes himself too seriously. It's so easy for him to be comical and goofy. It's hard not to see him that way in other things he's in, where he's in much more serious roles.
right. Transformers 50 through 100.
Ugh.
Oh goodness. I don't think I watched any of those past the first one.
I've seen to the third one, and I'm like, eh.
I'm trying to think what my thought was before we went down a Wahlberg rabbit hole.
No, but when he's listening to that tape, and he just turns up the volume, and then you hear that
The
you
white
hear the other-
noise.
yeah, the
But
white
then you
noise.
hear him speaking the Latin and everything.
But that was the ghost, right?
Yeah, because when Bruce
Yeah.
Willis comes back in, he's like, "It's cold in here." Because when the ghosts
Yeah.
show up, it's cold.
Right. Yeah, that part scared. That part was scary, but
But the thing with that teacher scene is when he's like, "No, whoever told you that's not true. It's a courthouse. They hung people at courthouses."
How are you going to pretend like that never happened?
yeah. Well, they didn't do it here.
It was probably outside. Like that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Nope, that's outside. That's still part of the building.
Yeah, well, and you see those people eventually. You see them after that little play, and they are inside because who knows what parts of the school were like expanded on, or
Mhm.
whatever new additions they made for the theater, especially. That was the joke when they were putting in the theater at Rusk High School. It was like, oh yeah, this is where the bodies were all buried, but now that they're digging it up for this theater, we're gonna have theater ghosts everywhere.
Well, then it talks about there being a fire, and he's like, "Yeah, he knows. He just talked to a lady who died in it."
Right.
Yeah.
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 She was helping him do his makeup. I thought that was pretty clever. Well, I guess he becomes a ghost whisperer now. Like maybe he.
Yeah,
Basically-
what's the happy ending that isn't like still so scary and hard to navigate for him and his mom, especially? Like,
Yeah, he's basically having to deal with dead people's unfinished business, so they can like not be ghosts anymore.
yeah,
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they didn't make a sequel, but that would be an interesting
follow up.
follow-up to have an older Haley Joe, his character, like dealing with ghosts, like
Or finding another kid like him who's going through the same thing.
yeah, like helping, yeah, exactly, like helping people.
I think Cody's right. If there hadn't been so much emphasis in marketing and the word of mouth part that was like, oh, the kid sees dead people, like that was what took a lot of people by surprise with the twist at the end.
Mhm.
Because for most of the movie, you don't think it's ghosts. You think it's abuse and trauma from his dad leaving or something. Like all these things could be the cause of it. Or maybe he's schizophrenic and his mom doesn't know how to take care of him. If I See Dead People hadn't been the big draw that everybody heard about the movie, like the twist would have been just that much bigger.
Mhm.
And you talk about him deserving an Oscar. He did get an Oscar nomination for his performance, as did Toni Collette for playing his mother.
She did a great job. I
Yeah,
thought she was
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah.
yeah. I think she does a great job of being a caring and concerned mother because she's having to be a single parent. She's working 2 jobs, and she's like trying to deal with this, but she loves her son. Like even when there's like signs that like, oh, there might be something wrong with him, but then she's immediately like, if your kids touch my kid again, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
always supportive of him, and she's always she's trying really hard not to let it scare him, which is hilarious because obviously he's holding a lot back to make her feel safe and sane.
Mhm.
But her instinct not to be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so Like all
Well-
the trauma that he hears from ghosts, she's doing her best to insulate him from that kind of world for the
Yeah.
most part.
Well, it's like the part with the kid. He's like in the hallway. It's after she gets upset with him, and it may have been about the brooch, her grandmother's brooch.
Her
And then
mother's. It was his
you see the-
grandmother's.
Yeah, you see the kid in the hallway, and he's like, "Come on, I'll show you where my dad keeps his gun." And you're like, "Holy shit!" And then he like runs into the laundry room, and she's like, "If
And
you're
he-
not too mad, can I
yeah.
sleep with you tonight?" And she goes, "Look at this face. I'm not too mad," or something like that. And she hugs him, and he's like all freezing and like shaking, and
Yeah, because a ghost just walked through into his bedroom.
yeah,
But I mean, that's the story he has to tell to make her be like, okay, you're not insane. Because when he decides to tell her, like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to get a psychiatrist and
right.
all this stuff. And then like he tells her a detailed story that surely she hasn't told him that.
Mhm.
And
Right.
yeah, it's like, wow, okay, grandma is visiting you.
Yeah,
There's a oh crap. The fact that we as an audience, especially the first time, it really takes advantage of like the first viewing. You don't pay attention as closely to the introduction of Bruce Willis as his doctor. Like he's never like the mom never says, "Here's the doctor I wanted you to talk to," or "I know you've been having
Yeah.
trouble at school with a bully." He's just there and we accept it unquestioningly. The transition is so smooth. We're like, "Oh, this looks like he knew he was going to have this appointment with this little boy and the mom let him in so he could talk to him after school." Like all the times where he's with him, there's no interactions that indicate she actually knows he's there.
yeah. That part where she's
But it's
waiting on
just
him,
so seamless.
and they're sitting in the living room, and they're almost facing each other,
It
like
looks
they
like
had.
they've been talking before he got home. Yeah.
Yeah, like they had been talking, but then she gets up and goes to the door, and she's like, I'll make you square pancake, triangle pancakes or whatever. You got an hour." But that was her just saying, "You got an hour before I'm done, and you can eat."
Yeah, go
Every-
play.
everyone
You
else-
just got home from school.
Everyone else took it as, "Well, you've got an hour to meet with your friend here."
Yeah, our mind fills in the blanks and just assumes that, oh, well, his mom arranged this and it's because he's having trouble at school. And
Yeah, like
Well, yeah, Bruce Willis has no interaction after that beginning with anyone but Haley Joel Osment. But you just accept, yeah, he's a doctor, he's here. And then even the stuff with his wife, you're like, okay, well, obviously something is going on between him and his wife, and she
Mhm.
like is mad at him and doesn't want to communicate with him, but is not leaving him. So you don't even think that like what's going on is going on. You just think he's having marital problems. Maybe he's too obsessed with his work or something.
mhm. And the part where he hits the window, like she's at her antique shop or whatever, and
she gave that guy that gift and they smooched on that couch.
yeah, and then he
Oh,
like
cheese
punches
dick?
the window.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know the character's name. I just remember Bruce Willis
That's his
calling him
name.
that.
That's his name.
That'd be great if that was his name in the credits. Just
Or when Dr. M. Night's talking to the mom and he's there too. The doctor's not
Yeah.
even like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was a good touch. That was the stuff I watched for this. Going back and watching it was all the subtle just stuff that.
Those transitions
Yeah, the
are
transitions.
really smooth.
What
I wish I'd
did
taken
you
better. Go ahead.
Well, did you know the producers thought that they gave the ending away in the hospital scene where he finally tells them, because they said the camera is right at Bruce Willis, and they're like, "Oh crap, we gave away our ending," and he's like, "Nobody caught on. Nobody caught on."
Nobody caught it.
Yeah, I know I didn't the first time, like because you just.
You're just
I think
enwrapped in the story.
Yeah, I think you're waiting for Ghost. You're waiting for Ghost that you don't realize that you're looking at a ghost the entire time because you're waiting for all these other ghosts to pop up.
Because he's nice and all the other ghosts are like
scary and mean.
crazy, scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
got
his I
open
remember we talked
wounds,
about-
or they're puking on you, or
And he
Exactly.
had a wound, but you just didn't see it until because
Yeah.
it went through and he was bleeding out of his back.
you don't see it
So-
till he realizes
till he
that he's
remembers
dead.
it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Haley Joel says that, or Cole, his character, that sometimes they don't
Mhm.
even know they're dead, which
Yeah.
is sad. Have you seen the meme where it's like it was saying something about how messed up our American society is? They're like, Bruce Willis was dead and he was still going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Wouldn't you be mad when you realize a whole year I've been doing this?
Yeah, like
Going to
oh
work?
man.
For what?
And I'm dead? Not even
Yeah.
getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
That was one thing I
But-
wondered. Was like, for a ghost, what does he? You never see any transitions where like you see Bruce Willis interacting with his wife, and you see him interacting with this one boy who can only see dead people, the only person who can see dead people. But like, where is he when he's not stalking those two people as a ghost in this movie? Like, he doesn't realize all the time he's spending that isn't with these people.
Yeah, it's just going from moment to moment.
Yeah.
You know, there's no in between for him. Like
There's no
there's
liminal time space.
Well, yeah, we're
and-
not getting scenes of Bruce Willis in bed or in the bathroom
yeah,
or eating.
that's what I mean. Like he just they see what they see what they want to see.
They want to see. Yeah.
So he's just seeing, I guess,
The
what's
things he's focused
happening.
on. Okay, the color red. I wish I'd taken better notes about everything that was red, because the red seems to kind of draw a circle around what certain ghosts are focusing on. Like Misha Barton, a little girl at her wake or whatever, her mother is wearing red. When
Well, her
everybody
stepmother.
right, her stepmother. When the dad finds out and he realizes and he looks at her, she's wearing like a red, which is so tacky, wearing bright ass red while everybody's wearing mourning clothes and colors, and it's supposed to be your kid, your stepkid who passed away. Bruce Willis's wife is always wearing red.
Mhm.
It's either like a whole red outfit or at least like really red jewelry really close to her face.
Or that scarf or blanket that she's wrapped
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The doorknob is great. I just want crystal doorknobs everywhere now, but not red because that scares me now. But yeah, he really does. That use of color is pretty great.
I mean, that's
Well-
a trademark for him. If you watch any of his movies, there's usually some sort of color scheme going on, either for the mood or for a character or something.
Blues.
Hmm.
The Blues Clues, but they're red or yellow.
Well-
or purple.
I'm gonna give this movie 2 butcher knives up because I really enjoy it. Before we segue into us.
It's an amazing movie, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. When this movie was out and getting critical and commercial success, they were talking, of course, Haley Joel Osment's performance is what most people were talking about. But Roger Ebert had said that if Haley Joel Osment got nominated, Bruce Willis should have got nominated too, because he's having to help, get that performance out of Haley Joel Osment.
No, I don't think that's on Bruce Willis.
No, I think
he's
Haley's
on-
got that on his own. I mean,
Where was Bruce
like-
Willis in the other movies? Haley Joel Osment was fucking crushing it in that time period where he's like, let's see.
so did anyone have to help Haley Joe on AI?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
it's
working
not-
opposite Jude Law and a lot
true.
of other heavyweights.
In
Well-
Forrest, and I really don't think he needed. Like, I'm sure it
Well,
helped.
apparently his dad tried to be an actor too, but I guess
Hmm.
Haley Joel was more talented.
Well, his sister's done a bunch of stuff too.
Hell yeah, she was Hannah Montana's best friend for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So this is a rarity. This film is one of the few horror films that's been nominated for Best Picture.
Wow. And
And
I
they
could,
didn't have to kill a million people to do it.
you know, honestly, they kind of deserved it. I mean,
Well, if we look at what won that year, yes, this film should have won
yeah.
instead
I
because
can't remember what came out that year except for Star Wars. So you'll have to.
So,
well,
yeah, it should've
American Beauty won Best Picture.
Oh,
Now, I have
yeah.
not seen that movie since it
I
came out,
haven't either.
but I suspect not only the nature of that movie, but because Kevin Spacey is the lead character and the nature of his character, I bet that movie has not aged well.
That I haven't
Like
seen it,
Milk.
but it mainly just looks like it looks very pedophilic to me. Like,
Well,
It was
there's
too
a
messy for
little
me
bit
to
of that
really
going
get
on
into.
because he's kind of obsessing over his daughter's best friend, or I guess
ah,
it's not
okay.
even
And
her best friend.
I don't remember the plot. I don't remember.
I
I,
It's
remember the poster.
basically,
And
yeah, I
the fact
remember
that it
seeing
was
the
an adult
poster,
movie.
and that was it.
yep. It's
But much I remember.
basically a middle-aged man going through a midlife crisis.
Gross and boring.
Yeah.
Stop giving it awards.
And hitting on underage, girls. That's
But it's
that's
romantic
gross.
and poetic and barf, barf, barf.
No,
Yeah, Sixth Sense should have won.
I can blow my nose, and it could be romantic
Haley
and
Joel Osment
poetic.
should be worth more than $6 million at this point, and he should have several Oscars on a shelf somewhere.
Well, he
The
did.
only-
He did play a little boy with AIDS in an episode of Walker, Texas Ranger.
Haley Joel Osment?
Jesus.
Yeah,
How much tragedy they got to give this guy?
He's just this sweet, precious little face, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna hurt this kid.
AIDS.
We're gonna traumatize this
Cancer.
kid." Sees
You
dead
see
people.
dead people. You're a
See dead
robot
people.
boy nobody wants.
Nobody
Yeah,
loves
nobody
you, robot
loves you.
boy. Oh my gosh, that's what's wrong. That's why he didn't grow any taller. We stunted his growth with all these heavy roles.
With our hate.
with our sadness.
I
That's
think
so-
the only downside of Sixth Sense winning Best Picture is M. Night Shyamalan's ego would have been even bigger.
And so would Bruce Willis's. And
Yeah.
the world doesn't need that.
Yeah, it's taken at least about a decade for Shyamalan's ego to kind of swell down, like to decrease.
Well, you think after Lady in the Water and The Happening, his head would have deflated some.
What about Bruce Willis? He's still got a big ass head, and he's just out there.
Bruce is doing
Bruce
straight to
Willis
video.
just shows up, gets paid millions upon millions of dollars to be in terrible movies.
His
But
his last made for TV or made straight to video sci-fi movie looked
Rough.
it
Was
looked
that the one that
horrible.
looked like a pure flick?
and I
movie?
hear conflicting theories on Bruce Willis on set. Apparently, if you know what you're talking about and you know your technical terminology for filmmaking, apparently he'll be as nice as can be. But if you don't know this stuff, then apparently he's a huge jerk to you on set. Because
And
apparently,
how is anybody supposed to learn those things when there's people like Bruce Willis walking around just like punching coffees out of your hand for not knowing your shit right off the bat? That's crazy.
because Wes Anderson was like, "Oh, it was very lovely on set." Because I guess Wes Anderson knows all this stuff. So
Right. Well, I know he and Kevin Smith did not get along
yeah,
very well.
not get
yeah.
along because Kevin Smith is not a technical director. So
Right.
yeah, it
I
was
think
not.
I think here lately,
That still sounds
think
like
it's
such
kind
an
of
ego
smoothed
thing,
out.
though. That sounds like Bruce Willis has a standard for how movies are made, and if you don't make a movie like Bruce Willis would make a movie, then you're not shit, and that's obnoxious.
I think after Kevin Smith told the story a couple times on during his stand up that he does,
Gosh,
his
Kevin Smith can
Q&As.
tell a story, can't he, for hours?
Oh, we have them all. We have all
I
of his
know.
Kevin's night with evening with Kevin Smith movies. But I think after he told that story a couple of times, I think he said that Bruce Willis actually called him over the 4th of July weekend. And
Yeah,
this was
several years later, I forget. Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
about that.
like I guess, kind of made up or acted like everything was cool.
He just said he
or
just talked to
like-
him like everything was fine.
Yeah.
And that he was going to hang out soon, like they'd always been best buds. That's what crazy narcissistic people do.
Yeah.
They act like unless you bring it up, then they get to flip it around that you're the person who can't let go and you're the person with all the bitterness or whatever.
Yeah.
And
he also just assumes he's the only person named Bruce in that conversation because Kevin Smith is somebody called. He's like, "Hey, Kevin, this is Bruce," and Kevin's like, "Bruce." He's like, "Yeah, Bruce Willis." Like, okay, excuse me that I didn't just automatically assume it was Bruce Willis calling me.
You're right.
That's how in his head he lives all the time.
But I don't think this is the only good M. Night Shyamalan movie, but I know a lot of people think it is, and a lot of people think, why is he still making movies? This movie is why he's still making movies because
But he
of
gets to keep making movies, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he did it so well with this one.
I know. The Village. It was. I used to think it was decent, but after we watched it a while back, I think I'm kind of like, man, maybe I should have watched it one more time.
I need to revisit it again because I know it has a following, and like in France, they like friggin' love that movie, and it's a beautiful looking film. But
it is.
That is kind of where it starts, and it's basically a crapshoot anytime you watch a new M. Night Shyamalan movie where it's gonna fall for you.
Right.
But I think at this point, now that he's like kind of financing his own films and he's working in a lower budget, he's just doing what he wants to do, and you're either on board or you're not. I don't think he cares if you like it or not anymore.
I think everybody was so hyped about what twist he was going to put in next that he just couldn't deliver.
They were just like hyper analyzing, and the pressure was, and the bar was too high.
Right.
Well, it also doesn't help that people are like, "Oh, you're the next Hitchcock. You're the next Spielberg. You're blah blah blah." Like that doesn't help. Yeah.
Well, all right. I think it's time to go ahead and segue.
We love you. That's
segue into us. Yeah, Sixth Sense is amazing, guys. Go check it out if you haven't already. I'm just straight up. I'm just gonna say, in my dad voice, that I am deeply disappointed. So you just let that sink in. As a dad, I'm disappointed.
What are you deeply disappointed in?
If they haven't watched,
if you don't know,
oh, you're disappointed if no one has seen The Sixth Sense yet.
Yeah.
Well, now babies can't watch it yet, Chris.
Standing there after you've come in, at 2:00 in the morning, just saying,
tidy whities and those tall tube socks I raised with you. Red stripes at the top.
I raised you better. I'm just disappointed. Now take that and just wrap it around your head. Just take that and just imagine me telling you that if you haven't seen.
Or just go watch it. Hurry, quick.
Yeah.
Go find Sixth Sense and finish it.
Granted, if you get the Blu-ray that I have, it totally gives away the ending if you don't know the twist by now, because the loading feature is the wedding ring circling around.
Oh my gosh.
Man, way to go.
Good job, Blu-ray.
Way to go on that loading screen.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
That's bananas.
Somebody did that on purpose. Somebody's laughing like, ha ha ha.
Well, I think it's just become one of those things people know, just like the Psycho scene. That lady's gonna die in the shower. It's just one of those things. Like, I think people know the twist before they've seen the movie now.
Pretty much.
It's because it's that big pop culture. It's a punchline now. The I see dead people turned into I see dumb people. And
I had a shirt that said that for a long time.
Yeah. And it, there's a million different Minions memes out there that are like, I see Dallas Cowboys fans, or whatever your weird thing is that you think is crazy to see. Yep. Hold on. That's
all right, guys. We're going to segue into another great movie that we just watched for the first time called Us. A Jordan Peele movie. Amazing. man, where am I going to start with this? Because again, it's funny that we chose, like I chose The Sixth Sense and you chose this movie because
these movies are exactly 20 years, not exactly 20 years apart, but they are 20 years apart in that one came out in 1999 and one came out in 2019.
yeah, that is,
Yes.
yeah, they did come
And
out 20 years.
the shots and the suspense is beautiful in a similar way. Just a very like,
Yeah, it's
what's that
very.
behind you?
They
Pass
both
it in
have
your
a
peripheral.
twist. Lots of twists and turns, and the suspense was great. And then trying to figure out what all was going on. Like again, I was a little lost when it came to plot. But I will say, Hands Across America has never been more frightening than it has been now. So yeah, Hands Across America.
So let me
So
give you a
remember
little
the
bit of
theme song.
context of why this, besides it having a twist ending. One, The Sixth Sense was one of the films Jordan Peele asked his cast and crew to watch before they made this movie. And now the
that's
other
so weird. It's like I didn't know any of that when we were picking these movies.
And the other parallel is that this is Jordan Peele's second film. He's coming off a highly successful commercial and critical film, Get Out, which got Oscar nominations, and he won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. And it's also one of the few horror films to be nominated for Best Picture. And a lot of people were relating this film to Unbreakable, even though Us got better critical and commercial success than Unbreakable did. There were a lot of people that were disappointed in this because I guess they were wanting it to be more of a racial topical film than like Get Out, or maybe they just got confused by the plot or lack of plot. And it's just more of a straight up horror film than Get Out was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to commend Jordan Peele on one thing, because after he got the success of Get Out, he got offered like a ton of stuff. Like they tried to give him Akira, and he's like, no, I want to do original social horror films. And I think he uses that popularity and credibility he got with Get Out's success. And not only does he do that, but he does something that we don't really get to see in a horror movie for a standard U.S. horror film. We have a family of color as the lead characters in a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
That rarely happens. Like in a normal horror movie, they would be the friends couple, not the main couple.
Yeah, they'd be the Josh and Dahlia of the story for sure.
And none of them die.
Oh my gosh, I was.
Yeah, and
it was stressful.
Yeah, like, and just creepy, just so. Creepy.
You talk about a great performance. Lupita should have gotten an Oscar nomination.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. There was a little bit of comedy in there. There was.
You guys know Jordan Peele is a comedian, right? Or was a comedian before he made movies.
I knew them two from Mad TV.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they had their own Key and Peele. They had their own sketch comedy show. And then before he did Get Out, he wrote a movie called Keanu, which they star in, which is about a cat.
We haven't watched
gotta watch Keanu too. Hold on, I got
this. Tim Heidecker was the neighbor, his neighbor buddy from the Tim and Eric show. If you've ever watched that acid fever dream, like, because that's exactly what it is.
But I think it's interesting, a comedian making horror movies, because comedy and horror are kind of on the same side of the coin, right?
For sure.
Well, look at David. Look at Green and.
But the setup for a joke is the same as a setup for a scare. Both of these types of movies play well in large crowds. both of these movies, both of these genres are able to talk about topical and social and political issues within the genre and make you not feel like you're being preached to.
Mhm.
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense that he's a huge horror fan, and I'm glad that he's being able to use his popularity and fame to elevate the genre.
Right. And he also did. He was also involved with the Twilight Zone
Yeah, he's an executive
remake.
producer on that and being
Mhm.
the Rod Serling of it. He's
Right.
also the voice of the Funhouse at the beginning of the movie
Okay. Nice.
when she goes into that as a little kid.
Hmm. And that twist, like that, I was kind of wondering if that was going to happen until it did. Like that, it was in the back of my mind. I was like, wouldn't that be
Well, that's
wouldn't that
because
be
the
weird if
scene that they show, the reveal, is in the trailer we watched,
yeah.
or
I
at
was,
least part of it,
I,
enough of it that you're like, okay, well, when does that happen?
yeah, I was like, okay, because I was expecting when the dad came back from the boat and he had the fight with Evil Dad, I was like, oh man, maybe this is where they switch. Like this is where they become fully sentient. And he killed the real dad, and this is the imposter, and
he's wearing his clothes
he's
and
wearing
his
his
glasses.
clothes. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's fixing to get in there, and
yeah. I kept waiting for him to come back. It didn't happen.
no, but
I gotta say, Winston Duke's great here as basically just playing a dad. Like he's doing the dad jokes. He's getting excited about his boat. He's thinking he's gonna get some action, even though he's clearly ignoring, obviously, PTSD and some really big issues his wife is dealing with.
right. Yeah. He just played the basic, going out with a bat, like, man, I done told you, I'm fixing to get crunk up in here when he's really like shaking in his boots, like.
Yeah, but then he
scared to
comes
death,
back and he's like, yeah, call the police.
Yeah, he's like, 14 minutes is not fast enough. Oh my gosh.
But I like this family dynamic too, because it's a nice family. Like, even though they have a preteen girl who's obviously being angsty, like, she's a good kid and like she looks out for her brother, because even though she thinks he's a total weirdo, she gets totally mad when those other girls are like saying mean things about him.
Right. Yeah, it's like a healthier family dynamic, because a lot of times, especially in a scary movie, it's easy for everybody to be mean to each other, because it kind of builds that tension when things get really scary and dangerous. But them not like it not being a fight with amongst them and being like facing whatever these people or creatures are together. I like that a lot better. It definitely made me feel that much more tense, like wondering if any of the family members weren't going to make it to the end of the movie. Because I was for sure Dad was done in a garbage bag on the back of that boat. I was like, bye, Dad. You were great.
He came this close so many times, and then
they all do. That I'm just like, oh no, how many is that going to be left? And it's not.
Did they argue over who killed the most bad? Like,
they're like
doppelgangers.
Right.
They're like, actually, I killed 2 people, so technically, I should get to drive.
Well, the fact that they're sitting there watching the news with that one lady, the neighbor lady, just
one of the daughters is in the coffee table, and then the mom is right behind them. She even says that. She's like, well, you can tell her. She's right here. You can tell him. He's right there. And the joke about Home Alone.
Yeah.
She's like, did you see
what's Home Alone?
Yeah. What's Home Alone? What are micro machines? That was nice. That was
also that previous scene indicates how bad technology can be, because your Alexa doesn't hear everything you say and decides to play gangster rap instead of calling the police.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
They played NWO's Fuck the Police. I was like, oh no. That's the last thing you want to hear before you're being taken out
before your AI doesn't call the emergency response services.
Like, well, no. They said, "Fuck, please, I'm done." Go ahead.
It's probably one of those moments where you're like, is this really the soundtrack to my death right now? This is the last thing I'm going to hear. Wow. Okay. How scary are those scissors?
So creepy.
That is
Where
way
did all the
more
scissors-
terrifying.
I don't know. Okay,
Where did the scissors come from, right?
I'm still okay. I know you're not
He's trying
supposed
to wrap
to
his
think.
mind around the logistics of
You're not supposed to think this hard into a horror movie, okay? But one, how did they survive? How do they feed themselves if they were just left by the
She
government?
said they ate raw rabbits.
They're eating all those rabbits down there, which they were also
And
experimenting
rabbits
with.
down there.
Okay. See, I'm hard of hearing anyway, so when we had to lower it in certain scenes, I guess I just missed that dialogue because it left me wondering, like, okay, how far, like, do they have clones? How many clones do they have? Or did they try to clone everyone in the United States? Is this all over the world? Like, what's the deal? Was this a global thing, or I know
Now you're
I know,
getting
we're not
like
supposed-
way into it.
you're not supposed to know.
I thought
but
that the Hands Across America thing was how they got all the genetic samples to clone all these people. Was everybody who got together and held hands, like every third person was some government agent, like saving their gloves and pieces of hair or something. But that doesn't, it wasn't that. But that's where I was like, okay, why is Hands Across America so important right now? Why is that jingle going to be stuck in my head forever?
That was pretty clever, though, using Hands Across America.
It was. It made it scary instead of,
And then what's going to happen to him? Like,
well, that's it. That's the end of the movie. You don't get to find out what happens to
do they go on a rampage and kill everyone else? Like, we want to know, Jordan. What's the deal? Thanks for leaving. I'm going to lay awake all night tonight thinking, like,
I'm going to lay awake all night tonight because
Where-
I'm scared of the dark again.
who's going to be like,
Are you gonna freak out if I Got 5 on it starts playing?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, there's no Alexas plugged in around here, no Googles, no nothing. Mm-mm.
One day I'm gonna get a chance at some sort of Q&A, or like I'm gonna bump into him like face to face somewhere, and the first thing I'm gonna do, instead of like, oh man, can I have a picture, or
Why do
hey,
they have all those
can I
scissors?
have an autograph? I'm like,
Where do they come
hey
from?
man, where did those scissors come from? Where did they all get jumpsuits from? Like, what's with Hands Across America? Like, what happened to the rest of them? What are they gonna do now, huh?
Survivors were there. Why?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Did they kill all their doppelgangers? Like, was this across the United States? Was it across the world? I don't know, man. Fill us in. And I don't think I don't
I
ever
think the
this
Hand
hard about
Across
horror movies.
America, if we want to get into it, the spoiler is that Lupita is the doppelganger and her original self got left on the underground with all the other
Mhm.
cloned people, and that was the shirt she was wearing, and that was a big advertisement at that time. And I guess
Right.
that's something Jordan Peele remembers as a child, was like the Hand Across America.
And that she would fixate on it and be like, yeah, that's gonna be the big dramatic finale of my. Oh, but that still freaks me out because her doppelganger she like smiles at her family, and you're like
Mhm.
happy for her, but also, oh my gosh, the original child, how
Yeah.
traumatizing and
And that's
fucked
why-
up is that?
That's why they were like, how come she won't talk? Because she couldn't talk.
Mhm.
She had to
She
relearn
didn't know
to
how
talk.
to talk
She
Yeah.
had to learn, but she
Huh.
knew she wanted to be somewhere besides down there.
No
Right.
joke. And who left them? Like, if they were abandoned, how come they all didn't just come to the surface way before then and just start wandering around?
Don't they
You know.
reference that there was something missing besides the soul, like was not giving them the ability, and the government was just like, oh, whatever. But yeah.
Oh, these are broken. Leave them here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the little girl gets out at least once. How before now? Especially the original little girl. Why wasn't she just like dumping bunnies out of cages and opening doors and cranking up that escalator to
Yeah.
go the other way around? Way before then. That was so scary.
we will just never know. I don't think we were meant to pick it apart this much, but I can't help it. And I don't with horror movies. I don't,
It
because
makes more
there's
sense now.
there's no point. in a horror movie. You're not supposed to. People
You're
die.
supposed to be too afraid to think, right?
People make it out,
That's
or
why they
they
make bad
die, and that's
choices.
it.
You're
But
supposed to
Bill-
just be invested in what's going on and trying to figure out how they're going to get out of it.
It's just like Haley Joel Osment's character in Sixth Sense. I want to know what happens to him and that he's okay at the end.
Well, I was much more okay with the end of that than I am
No, I
this
think
movie.
that
I
was
want to know
lazy.
more about the
Like, oh, Bruce Willis solved all my problems. He gets to go to heaven, and I get to hopefully not be haunted anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
this left me with more questions than
But that makes so much sense. Remember when they're fighting? She's like the person you think is the original Red. That's her character's name.
right.
She like has this like softness in her heart for the children and her like the corresponding family members. Like she loves the original versions of them, but she like looks so sad when she sees that little boy light himself on fire. When the little girl, they get rid of her. Like she still has this tenderness for them because those would have been her family if she hadn't done what she did
Okay, well,
to get
how
her
about,
life in the sun and in the fresh air. And
how
in
about
the,
this? How come she talks like one of them, or
'cause
she was talking?
She grew up with them and had to communicate with the tethered.
And she also is the only one that is talking.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
She's the only one of all the because all the other tethered are like moaning and grunting like zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, if zombies were like 10 times scarier and faster and more accurate and weaponized.
Like they're there, but they're. Maybe I shouldn't use this as an analogy, but it seemed like they were just really drugged up patients.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It
You
definitely
know,
looked like a state hospital down there. In the worst
Yeah.
ways.
Oh, that's another gag I like because I forget his name. Elizabeth Moss's husband. He's giving Winston Duke a hard time about not having the flare gun.
that's Tim Heidecker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Tim Heidecker. He tries
His
to
character's
shoot
name is
him
Josh.
with the flare gun, but misses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, just made a perfect smoke screen to be stabbed in with the
Yep.
flare.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I really did enjoy it. Like questions, like it did leave me with a lot of questions. I mean, but
I'm just haunted. Lupita was so good, and as
yeah,
both as
like-
everything, and I didn't want anything bad to happen to anybody.
all four of those actors and actresses were great.
Oh yeah. Do we think that maybe Jordan Peele was that little boy? Is that like a little bit of himself?
Maybe so. Like
The little boy in that family that, or in the, where the tethered version who was like a pyro who burnt half his face off.
No, the regular version. Just a kid
Just like,
obsessed
I like
with like
magic tricks and
monsters. Yeah. Wearing a
Yeah.
Jaws t-shirt.
yeah.
so. Wait.
For
Okay.
sure.
Wait a minute.
What?
So how old do you think that little boy was?
He's got to be probably what, 9, 10?
So they had to have been doing experiments up until he was born or recreated
Because he has a tethered replicant. Is that what you're saying?
because he's
that has to be around the time they abandon them.
so maybe it only been like a couple of years.
Well,
since
no, it
the
doesn't have to
abandonment.
be because she said I didn't have a choice of like to be in love with this person. We were just paired together, and because you had children, I had to have children. There didn't have to be any
Mhm.
supervision for that. They were just they have to because they're copying everything they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So down below there, she was still together with her husband, and she still had those two creepy ass children.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I got
These
you.
are the
But
weird
you know,
doppelganger versions. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
copying. You're creating a copy of what is going on the above surface. Like if you see they're like kind of performing the same actions, but like with no communication. They're just like making noises and moving.
Right. So there's some kind of
But they could have known by the
There's-
time she got switched that they
there's-
weren't all the way.
there's some kind of internal
Functioning.
switch that
Mhm.
makes them do the exact same thing that their doppelgangers are doing.
It's the tether. They don't ever
The
get
tether.
to eat the
Okay.
fresh food. They don't ever get to see the sun. They're just acting it all out, like shadow acting it
Gotcha.
underground in all these tunnels, which is terrifying to think of now. That just like there's a whole subsidy of people. Thanks, Jordan Peele.
Yeah, that was good. I really enjoyed that. That was a really good story. It did, when I think about it now, it did seem kind of like very Twilight Zone-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Like it did have a very like a PG-13 Twilight Zone feel to it.
That's because the normal parts of the movie where they're acting normally, they're interacting with each other. It seems like a very typical movie, like, oh, this is gonna be a family vacation. Oh, that's their friends that they know. They meet up every summer
Mm,
to do vacation together. Like all of that is so clearly normal that the scary parts are that much scarier. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the surreal feeling of like the juxtaposition of this is totally normal and this is totally batshit crazy, like right next to each other,
mm,
and the way it's shot too. Like it doesn't feel like a horror film when they're talking and they're joking about Home Alone and they're watching the news, except for the fact that there's bodies everywhere
Right.
and they're covered in blood.
right. But yeah, I this is another movie. Again, they don't really have the same subject matter, but they're both very similar. So I could see making these a double feature in a way.
Well, they're both dealing with like, I guess maybe this one isn't really supernatural, but it still feels supernatural, all right?
Yeah, it
And
does with the whole tether thing, and
there's
know.
both children in peril and children
Mhm.
having to like sometimes be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
right.
So like
Yeah.
there are similarities. It features great performances.
Yeah, great performances. Again, the story. I joke. I mean, you can watch this movie without having 50 million questions behind it. It's just things that I've sat here and noticed.
I'm more haunted by questions. It's not like
But I
Yeah,
think that
you
might
know.
be why some of the movie going public didn't like this movie. It's because of your questions. Like they were like thinking too much like about everything because it
But
wasn't adding up.
I didn't get any of that until after I, because we just watched it. We finished it about
9 o'clock.
9:30, 10, I think is when we finished it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not anything that I was questioning during the movie, because during the movie I was just wrapped up in it. I was like, oh man, who's going to die and what's going on? How are they going to get out of this? Your normal questions. It wasn't until now that I've just started, kind of sitting here thinking about that stuff, but it doesn't take away from it. Like to me, it doesn't diminish any of the movie in any way. It's a personal thing, and again, don't read too much into horror movies, or else you'll be asking those sorts of questions. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take anything away from it. It's still a great movie. It's something that I could go back and revisit maybe next year.
Well, it's interesting that you guys saw this one first and you haven't seen Get Out yet. So when you see Get Out, let me know what you think of
Well,
that movie.
We started it. We started it, and we got to the part up to where he probably,
I don't remember getting very far.
probably
into it.
15 or 20 minutes into the movie. He kind of notices the
Oh, you have
workers
yet to cover all the craziness going on in that one.
So,
well, see, I hadn't watched this one because I thought, well, I have to watch Get Out first because it came out first. I know they're not related in any way, but I was just like, well, I got to see the first movie that he put out, the first scary movie he put out, to see if I can even handle the newer. The newer one looked scarier to me. Just the horror element of it looked like something I couldn't handle.
This one is definitely more scarier surface level because this is more. Even
Immediate
though this
bottom
is kind of a
line.
weird and bonkers movie, this is more traditional horror than Get Out. Get Out is definitely more psychological horror.
Mhm.
And it's definitely dealing with more topical, mostly racial and social issues than this one. I mean, this one's still kind of dealing with social issues in a way, but not as much.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of looking for that. Like, I know he likes to address that, and of course, not having seen uh, Get Out, it was kind of I was kind of like, okay, what am I looking for here? But um, I don't know. You know,
You guys want to know what the name of his next movie is? It's coming out for my birthday next year.
wasn't it them or
Nope. It's called Nope.
It's called Nope.
Oh, Nope. Okay, yeah, that's what.
It's called Nope. Yeah. And it's gonna have the same Daniel Kaluuya, who was the lead in Get Out's gonna be in it. The guy who played Glenn in The Walking Dead's in it.
Okay. Well, you mean it's coming out for our birthday? So
Yeah, it's gonna be our birthday movie next year.
all right. Excellent.
Because there was a joke about, you remember the fake movie Edgar Wright made for Grindhouse called Don't?
Yes. Okay.
Someone joked and said, now I need Edgar Wright to make Don't so we can have a Nope and Don't double feature.
Nope. Don't. That'd be great.
Do we know what that one's going to be about? I know it's going to be scary.
Yep, it just says
Yeah.
Nope is an upcoming American horror film written and directed by Jordan Peele, released by his Monkey Paw production banner. It
Is it going
stars.
to be aliens? Is it going to be about aliens? The only thing I see is the poster. That looks like aliens to me. That
And
looks
then
like
the female lead is the actress that played Aquila in Aquila and the Bee.
Keke Palmer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks good. I hope it's aliens.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I look forward to everything he's doing. I think he's a super talented guy, and I like that he's keeping to his guns, and he's going to try and make original films and not get wrapped up in the franchise reboot machine. But if that's not what interests him, he shouldn't do it.
He needs
he did the last Airbender movie that almost ruined his career. That almost killed his career.
I didn't see that one.
What went wrong there? Because
looks bad.
Avatar is so good.
Because they tried to cram a whole season of the animated series into one movie.
Why? Why would you
on
do
top
that
of
to
whitewashing
yourself?
it, right?
Yeah, on top of whitewashing all the roles. Only the brown people are bad in that movie.
Come on. Are you serious?
And
they're all the firebenders.
Did you hear it? Coming from a brown person, he should know better.
Seriously, how do you make that mistake? Like
a big head. An inflated.
That still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I've never seen the movie. I haven't. I remember all the hype when it was coming out.
It's terrible. Don't watch it.
Thank you.
I just watch
the card.
Yeah.
So if we end up actually doing M. Night Shyamalan, then I'm sorry, but but until then, don't watch it.
I don't know if I can.
Avatar can be a dishonorable mention. That doesn't mean we have to watch it, right? Like if we do M. Night Shyamalan, we can just be like, and movies that he also did are on this list.
Man.
Anything else? I'm glad you guys really like this movie. I'm glad I'm not on my island by myself saying this movie's great.
It was terrifying, and now I'll never go to the beach.
Well, we're gonna.
I already wasn't going into those fun houses. The fact that they fold up and travel to other places with all those rides and stuff, no, thank you.
That's another thing I thought was funny. So in 1986, when she's a child, it's a very culturally inappropriate name for the fun house. And then it gets changed to like Merlin's whatever in
It
present
was like
day.
Find Yourself, Merlin's Journey, or
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
But obviously in the 80s, it was like a indigenous person in the cover of the Maze House or something, I think. I can't remember, but it's something culturally inappropriate.
Yeah.
And instead of reevaluating the entire idea of the funhouse and how scary and creepy those are, they're like, we'll just change the name and we'll paint the outside. It'll be fine. We won't change anything about the inside. It'll still be terrifying.
Well,
was
maybe
random.
somebody knew there was like tethered
Colony
demon
underground?
urchin people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor bunny rabbits.
They made those bunny rabbit cages out of organizing cubes. You can buy them on Amazon. Spray paint them gold. Don't put your bunnies in there, though. That's too little.
I am not a monster. I want you people to know this, but rabbit is actually pretty tasty.
But raw?
No, not raw.
For your whole life?
Cooked rabbit. It's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It's tasty. Rabbit leg.
It is good.
Yeah. Rabbit. Alligator. Snake.
Your country, Christopher.
Yeah, I know. It's all good though. It tastes good.
Yeah, again, the difference is, did you have to eat it raw
I've had raccoon before. Raccoons.
and wriggling and isolated underground and what
No,
looks like
no, I
an
haven't.
old
I haven't.
school?
I had to take care. I had to help skin some rabbits one time, and that was the end of that.
That was the end of your enjoyment of rabbit on a regular basis.
That's what you get when you grow up in the country. Rabbits, and I couldn't eat chickens for a while either. After slaughtering chickens, but hey, it's another story. It's another horror story we'll get into.
I'm a worse monster than you.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, I don't know how anyone can like work in that part of a chicken farm. It's gross.
I'm sure it's
we
like
did
the
it.
state hospital, just one of those jobs that slowly wears on your mental health until you break down.
Probably get used to it after that
No.
pee smell for the 1000th time. I mean, you were there for a lot longer than I was, walking onto the ward each morning and just
Smells like I'm gonna be sad
just
today.
like it smells like
We're all gonna be sad.
smells like sadness. but yeah,
We
I
can
have
all joke about it because if we don't, we'll have bigger problems.
nightmares. I still have that recurring nightmare. I say recurring. I haven't had it in a long time.
Where you still work there and you're late?
But up until last year, I was having this one dream where, like, I won't say any names, but it was the one who could high kick the ceiling and knock the tiles out. You know what I'm talking about?
Was this person trying to high kick you into the ceiling tile?
No, where I'll have, because I used to wear my keys on my belt on a tether string, one of those lighter things, So I would, and sit there and open the doors. But in this dream, I'm at the end of the hallway, and I'm trying to get out of the day room. And you know who is royally pissed off, and he's coming for me. I'm the only one there that he's gonna high kick into the ceiling. And like before he gets to me, I'll wake up or something. I'll change something in the dream, and then I'll wake up and be like, "Man, that kind of sucks."
Yeah, that's called trauma, and it's repeating in your dreams, so you can process it.
I never had any issues with him. Like,
no, the job.
Oh, yeah, always.
He was a representation of the things about the job that were
breaking
you down.
I didn't poke that bear, even though I didn't poke that bear. But anyway, I give this 2 butcher knives up. This was a great movie.
2 pairs of your granny's sewing shears up, because those are the scariest scissor sounds I have ever heard, and they only happen with those big like cast iron scissors.
Yeah, 2 scissors up.
He actually, for promoting this film, like right before the trailer dropped, he sent like boxes with those scissors to a few celebrities.
Well, that's cool. That's a cool little keepsake.
That sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
I forget who. All I remember is he sent one to Patton Oswalt. I think he sent some to a few other people though.
Well, that's cool. My most favorite and I know I still have it somewhere. It's got to be in storage. We're talking about movie promo items. My most favorite promo item was Death to Smoochie. Have you ever seen that with?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. It's a Smoochie plush, but he's zipped up in a body bag, and his little rhino horn sticks out where you can't zip it up all the way, like in the body bag, and then it's got like Death to Smoochie on it. And I thought it was the most clever like advertisement ever. I thought it was hilarious, but
Slightly less threatening than giant pairs of scissors
yeah,
coming to your house. From
That's
door to door.
directed by Danny DeVito.
yeah, that's
Huh?
I always thought that was a funny movie. Like it's been a while since I've seen it.
Say, huh?
Death to Smoochie.
It's directed by Danny DeVito?
Mm-hmm. It's got Jon Stewart.
I do remember Jon Stewart being in it.
Oh man, a bunch of people.
Robin Williams and Edward Norton.
Yeah, Ed Norton.
Edward Norton in this movie. I forgot.
I thought it was clever. I thought it
I'll be
was
danged.
a pretty funny dark comedy. We haven't watched that.
I haven't seen it all the way through.
Okay,
no.
I thought we had watched it, but maybe we didn't. But anyway, yeah, Us. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Go rent it.
So good. And now I gotta go watch the Get Out and Keanu.
We'll be watching Get Out at some point. We might squeeze it in this
Keanu
weekend.
about a cat?
Yeah.
Keanu is about a cat. It's not a scary movie at all.
I know tomorrow is straight up Dune. I'm ready.
Dune Day.
I was gonna wait until Friday, but I can't. I'm gonna watch that movie tomorrow night.
To talk about it or just to see it?
No, see
because
it.
it's probably so long. We'll finish it on Friday.
I started early.
It's only part 1.
Yeah, I know it. It's gonna be good. I can't.
When's part 2?
From all the reviews that I've heard, people are liking it.
Well, if people go to the theater as Denis Villeneuve demands that you see this movie in the theater, I guess part 2 will probably come out in 2 years.
Well, you tell Danny to rent me a theater where I can watch it by myself or
other people's breath
with a few other people, so we can spread out, and I'll be happy to go, see that movie on an IMAX screen like it was intended.
No, it's fine. Watch it on your phone off HBO Max. It'll be okay.
Luckily, I've
wear your headphones.
A projector for that very reason, because I had pretty much given up going to the theater, for a long, long time. So I invested in an okay projector, and that's good for me, like for now. Like I said, if I can get something worked out for Ghostbusters, that'll be our first movie back since Star Wars. So it's been a while. It's been a while.
You're talking about
Hopefully,
Ghostbusters?
it's a more satisfying legacy sequel.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Yeah, true that. Which we won't get into, but
we'll see.
We'll see. I will say I had fun with the Star Wars movies. But yeah, that's about it.
I have fun knowing I get to go to the movie theater like once a year before.
Yeah, because we tailgated. That was our big get together with friends.
Or
and
once
everything.
every other year, however often The Hobbit and the Star Wars movies came out.
Yeah, it was a good run of years.
Well, they were making Star Wars movies every year till Solo didn't do so well in the theaters. So then they're like, oh, maybe we won't make a Star Wars movie every year.
Maybe we'll make other stuff. We got other stuff back here.
I don't think that they should have made the Solo movie, but I'm on the train that it's not as bad as people think it is.
I think
there's a lot of good things in it for a movie that shouldn't exist, but at the end of the day, it's a movie that shouldn't exist. But for what it is, it's fine.
Hey, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi?
Or not
Rise of Skywalker?
Oh,
No,
I would
Last
agree
Jedi.
with Rise of Skywalker. It's much better than Rise of Skywalker.
I liked it better. The Last Jedi is the middle installment, right?
Yep, that's the middle installment that enraged
Yeah.
so many fanboys.
That's my least favorite, and it's
Oh,
not.
wah fanboys.
It's not for the reasons that they give. It's just it.
Chris, let the past die.
It. Well, no, I just didn't. It was just odd. It was just a. It was a weird Star Wars movie, and they left a lot of characters hanging that they built. They left up things hanging that they built in the first movie that just kind of
Well,
like.
I thought from the first to the second movie they had like completely different directors and writers. So
Well, no,
They did. They did.
yeah, that's why it was bananas bonkers weirdo in the middle, because it was like all those stories you were expecting
Okay.
to see progress in the second movie
I'll-
were just like
I'll put it to you this way, and this is the best way that I can put it, because you're a Harry Potter fan, right? It's like watching the first two Harry Potter movies and then getting The Prisoner, and then it feels so different and
Oh, I love
so
Prisoner. It's my favorite one.
weird.
that's one of the most popular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
When it started to do, it
but
shifted
it had
from the are we really making like
but you can
7
tell.
of these to like these are big movies.
But you know what I'm talking about. It had a totally different feel to it. It wasn't Chris Columbus anymore. It was different. And that's what this movie had. It was just a different feel to it. And that, like, everybody hated on Rose. I didn't hate on Rose. I just wanted to see her character develop more, because in the third movie they just kind of like they were like,
Well,
oh well,
were
people
already
hated her.
trying to
People
bully her
hated
to
Rose,
literal
so
death
we're
before that.
just
so-
not gonna do anything in the third movie.
I heard someone joke when they talked about the future of Star Wars movies, and someone's like, can J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson just keep undermining each other every time there's a new Star Wars movie? Can they just make one and then the other one's like, you know what? I didn't like all this stuff, so we're going to do it this way.
just until the end of time or until the end of one of both of them.
Yeah, and it didn't. I don't know, man. It didn't connect with me as a Star Wars fan. It doesn't mean I didn't like it. It doesn't mean that I don't think they're fun, but it's just for a different audience. I'm not gonna hate on it. You know, I'm not gonna hate on it for especially the reasons that.
We've matured past being fan babies.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna fan baby over it. It's just my least favorite. Like I will watch Solo and the prequels before I go back to that one, and it's just a personal thing. It just felt.
Because this
little
wasn't
off.
your Star Wars. This was like our kids' Star Wars. And
Yeah, it's my kids' Star Wars. It's a whole new generation. It's for them, you know, and it just wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't. It was not a satisfying conclusion to me. But again, it wasn't for me. It was supposed to be for everybody, and I don't know. They're fun. That's all I'm going to leave it at. They're fun movies. I'm okay with them. I've got 6 other movies that I do enjoy a lot more than I do enjoy these, but they're there, and you know we can't do anything about it. And I'll enjoy them for what they are. You know, they're Star Wars. They're Star Wars to me. So there, I said it. I'm
well,
not.
that's the nice thing about
Yeah,
movies.
there's-
Just like the people who make them, there's nuance to them, and you don't have to say definitively these are great or these are terrible. They can be.
They
Because
can
they
be in between, or they can be great
Because,
for
you know,
some and
I-
terrible for others. But yeah,
I look for the good in it, and I did find good in those movies. I found a lot of good in those movies, but I think there was more dissatisfaction in them than there was good for me.
It's like finding out they changed the formula for your favorite snack or beverage.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
It's like going from Coke to New Coke. When I don't want New Coke, I want Coke. But I'm not going to get New Coke. I'm not going to get old Coke back because
there's cocaine in it. That's not
there's
okay.
there's cocaine in it, and you can't do that. So
I don't know. I think we all deserve a little bit of cocaine in our Coke these days.
I
As
like a
crazy
little-
as everything is.
I like a little cocaine in my Star Wars, you know. Carrie-
oh man.
Carrie
well,
Fisher.
that was the
Fisher loved that.
70s and 80s. Sorry.
Oh, that makes
Princess
me feel good.
Leia
She
would
would
have
have.
loved that joke. I like a little cocaine in my original Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to go ahead and say what we're going to do next week?
Yeah, let's
What are we doing next week?
let's see. Oh,
We're gonna do
man.
Shaun of the Dead.
That's right. How many more weeks do we have, guys? Is next week the last week that we have?
Last week is the last week, unless we do one for the weekend too. We could squeeze 2 more shows in.
I'd kind of like to do. Let's try to do 2 more shows if we can squeeze them in. If it,
I was gonna pull up my calendar.
because we could do one Saturday night, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Sunday night. I mean, for like on actual Halloween, but I'm good for Saturday or Sunday. But so if we're gonna do Shaun of the Dead, then I say we do either Dawn of the Dead, the remake, the Snyder remake, or the Snyder version, or we do original Night of the Living Dead.
Let's do the original Night of the Living Dead, since Shaun of the Dead is very much homaging that Romero style of zombie.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Mm.
And then we'll discuss Halloween weekend, because I would like to.
Gotta do something.
Have we done something like supernatural yet?
I mean, besides the boy who sees.
Besides the Sixth
Well,
Sense that we just did,
Yeah,
about
besides
ghosts.
6 months. I meant
I gotta think.
We did
know,
Sleepy
like-
Hollow. That's supernatural.
yeah.
We did Evil Dead. That dealt with demons.
I was trying to think of a good like scary, like a ghost movie or a haunted house type
Well,
movie.
I
don't-
have a decent double feature if you're into it.
Okay.
That would be Trick or Treat and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Those two sound good because I've been seeing a lot of stuff with Trick or Treat here lately, and I haven't seen it. So that sounds good to me. And I'm sure Lindsay will be fine. I'll tell her about it when she gets back, but if she's not back before.
But yeah, I want to do Shaun of the Dead because Edgar Wright's new movie's coming out next weekend, and it's a horror film.
Ooh. Now, is that going to be streamed as well? No, man.
Theaters only.
Like, I get it. I totally do. I get it. But for us, germaphobes that want to stay at home, ugh.
Well, it's partly because the studio is like, oh, we got to get these movies out, and we've delayed things already. And like the vaccination's out there, people can get it. And I think some people are like, well, I guess this is just the way life is now.
Right. I know the HBO boss was like, he said he regretted releasing Dune like simultaneously. And I'm like, no, don't regret it. I mean, it's a good thing. Like, I want to watch it. I'm still waiting for Shang-Chi.
That should be coming out soon.
Yeah, I want to say end of November, early December.
Actually, I think it's this month sometime.
Oh wow, okay. Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
Like I'm waiting for that, and I've been dying to see that. So I can catch up on my Marvel. But yeah, that sounds really good to me. So yeah, we'll cover those.
All right. But yeah, that's why I wanted to do it, because I was like, oh yeah,
Cool.
and that'll
Yeah,
be a less
look really good.
it'll be a less spooky movie for Lindsay too, because Shaun of the Dead's not as spooky.
Yeah, that'll be good. And the original Night of the Living Dead's, it's hokey, so it's good, but not as scary as these modern stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Cody, thank you for joining us as always. It's been fun. I'm glad we get to do these little midweek shows. Look forward to it. So. And if anybody's watching or listening, we appreciate it. We really do. Go watch your scary movies. Go watch these. You'll enjoy them. All right, guys. Cody, you have anything else you want to add?
Just look out for this on YouTube. I'll probably post it on Facebook and Twitter sometime tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Be on the lookout for our Hellboy episode this weekend.
Cool. Yeah. Hellboy.
We're not doing Pan's Labyrinth now. The guest asked if we could push it a couple of weeks ahead. They said they were kind of busy.
Okay.
I said, that's fine. That gives me less podcasts to do.
Right. So we are doing Hellboy for sure, though.
As I spoke to the guest yesterday, and he said he was still game. It's going to be in the afternoon.
Cool. Because Friday night that'll probably be our Friday night movie is Hellboy. So, I mean, I've seen it 100 times, but I want to watch it again. It's been a little while, so yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Be fun. But all right, guys, y'all take it easy. Leave the nightlight on. Look under your bed. Ask your mom to check the closet. It'll be all right.
And if you have passed on to the greater beyond, you don't have to go to work. It's okay.
Yeah, don't go to work. What kind of fresh hell was he in? That was his hell. That was purgatory for him. I know it.
Your job can deal without you if you are no longer amongst the living.
Right. I guarantee you, after that dude passed away, his job posting was up the next day.
Need a child psychiatrist.
Yep. Other one was good, but he's not around anymore. All right, guys. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks for letting us chat your ear off, and we will catch you next week, next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat place, with Shaun of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. So lots of dead and zombies.
Yep. All right, folks. Good night and enjoy your spooky season.